if you're going to spend any time in the negative what if, then set aside equal that amount of time and dream up what if on the other side. What if it all works out? What if everything's great? Okay.
Title track, Evergreen.
Yep.
The first thing people are going to hear is you playing an oud, which is a pear-shaped, let me see if I get this right, pear-shaped, double-stringed, fretless instrument.
I didn't know what it was until I saw it on TikTok for the first time.
You think I knew this?
And then
Hunter, like,
no one knows.
Is there ever been an instrument that you're like, I tried, you know?
There's so many, dude.
You've talked a lot about your reverb addiction.
I'm so grateful that I get to talk about it now. Yeah,
Like,
come hang out with us on tour.
I will find another date. I'll fly to a date. Yeah, I definitely want to see the show.
Would love to have you.
And I'm not going to let my buddy's bachelor party get in the way of that.
Or bring the bachelor party to the show.
I don't know that I want to do that to you. I don't. Yeah, we aim for right around 25-minute, 30-minute mark. Hopefully I don't bore you too long.
A little over.
Yeah, a little over, a little under.
My goal is to over-deliver.
Okay.
And you can always trim it down.
Well, okay, we'll just jump in there then. At the time of this recording, we're a week out from Evergreen, right?
Yeah.
And
feels good.
The first, I can imagine that. And the first thing that caught my attention in doing my research about this project specifically for you is that you started to compare not only this project, but retroactively your projects to seasons and to series. And I like the idea that even when you were talking about this is season 1 of Evergreen, but you can go back and do season 2 or season 3 of whatever project it may be, right? Fly solo or all the way back.
100%.
But we'll start with the baseline questioning, a week out.
Yeah.
How is the anticipation of a project that you've been putting time into for over 10 years different than previous projects? How are you feeling right now?
Okay, so number one, this one's a solid 10 years. I could say 8 years of knowing that the project exists as a project, like knowing Evergreen was a thing.
Yeah.
It's 10 years worth of work though. There was 2 years of writing before that for something off to the side that I didn't know what it was going to be.
Sure.
Wild Blue started in 2018-ish. And then Red Sky sort of was born out of that in 2019-20. And then the entire time I had Evergreen, because at the time it was, we can get into it later, but it's been on the sidelines for a while. And the realization I knew that it felt, Evergreen feels very earthy. It feels you feel very grounded.
Sure.
Very mature. And there's a lot of things that I wasn't quite there yet. And I thought I had to get there before I did the project. And then I realized the project is about getting there. And I need to let the project tell the story of getting there, whatever there is.
Yeah.
And in season 1, it kind of specifically addresses who do I want to be to accomplish and get the dreams, the things that I'm dreaming about, the things that I'm praying for, the things that I'm manifesting, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So all that said, it's 10 years. It's the longest anticipation I've ever had for a project. It's also the most free I've ever been in making a project like that because it got to sit on the side. There has been no pressure. The only pressure I experienced was when we realized we had to turn it in at a certain time to get it put on vinyl. I was like, I thought I had 3 more months. But then it was I looked at everything and it was like, well, everything's almost done.
Well, the lead time on vinyl is so weird to me.
It's nuts.
That's not something that, you've been in this industry for so long, but I've been doing these lines of questioning for years. And it's that's another thing again now that people weren't thinking about 10 years ago. It's if we press it, someday we press it,
Which is such a metaphor for, I think, a lot of things in that we want something real. We want to feel connected to something tangible. We want connection. And so to answer your question, I'm feeling the anticipation in that this has been brewing for a long time. It's also the birth of something, as you were mentioning, right? The series, the seasons, all the shift in strategy. Being independent as an artist started, kind of in the Wild Blue timeline. And then Red Sky was my first independent album. But this is my first time getting to take everything we learned and say, okay, if I'm going to build my own business and do my career the way that I can work best within it, what does that look like? And this is that. All the above.
Man, you're preaching to a choir right now because without getting too much into the weeds, we briefly met, and I'll call it a met. It's hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. Then, peace out kind of moment 9 years ago, right? Yeah. And you were at a different stage in the Hunter Hayes journey. And I was working for a radio station company. And like you now, I took a break from that and I went, if I do this again, how do I own it? How do I run it? and how do I make it what I would want to consume, you know? And not that you haven't ever been true to yourself or less than authentic, but you know, there can be a lot of pressures in the music industry of, okay, well, we've heard him for Wanted. Is he going to do that again? You know?
Yeah.
I love the color metaphor too, right? You know, blue sky kind of looking like what could be ahead. Red's like, oh, it's the climax, you know, conflict.
Yeah.
Green. What jumped out to me is John Legend has a track with Andre 3000 called Green Light. And that was my theme when I graduated high school. It was like,
Love.
Green light, go do everything. So when I saw, you know, the green, and I don't know, maybe it's just me being an idiot, but I was like, evergreen, I don't associate that with a color. You know, in the industry, it's like, will this stand the test of time kind of thing?
Yeah. It is kind of funny how many different parts of the industry use evergreen as a requirement for success.
It's like, will this last on TikTok in 9 months? You know?
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother journey that I'm sure you're on and learning.
Oh, man.
I do want to reference just a few things real quick. You worked with a friend of mine on one of the tracks here. And before I knew this, I was like, this is the track that stands out to me. So it's 10 songs in total, right? 5 of them are out.
Yes.
Human Again, track 9.
Yeah.
Stacey Ryan.
Yeah.
Is a friend, and we actually had her on the show a couple months ago.
Big fan.
But yeah, just hearing that song and hearing the songwriting and the exact quote, I want to get the lyrics. So much of my life was living someone else's dream. I gave so much away. There was nothing left for me, right? Mm-hmm. That's just something that when I hear that, anyone who's ever been on their own journey and tried to fit versions of themselves into a mold, you know, can relate with that.
Yeah, which like props to Stacey. I've been a fan of Stacey's for a while. I had been wanting to write with her for ages, ever since I heard.
Yeah.
I think it was Fall in Love Alone.
Yeah.
Was when I was just like, dude, yeah, I need more of that in my life.
If you ever want to hear like a proper jazz riff, by the way, someone that can like scat in modern day.
But like versatile.
Oh,
dude,
my God.
like as an artist,
Yeah.
she's so versatile. And I was so excited about maybe, you know, whatever, if we write together, if we collab, whatever. So I kept putting it out in the world, and I had, you know, and then it came to be, man, prayers get answered. So I was excited to write with her. It was the day after the Grammy. So we were all kind of like, you know, worn out from the goings on of the Grammy week. You know, Grammy week is not just the Grammys. It's like 100 events.
There's shows every single night. You're doing red carpets every day.
And I'm not really a party dude.
Yeah.
So like and I wasn't really that social for that time. I was very much focused on, I actually used writing as an excuse not to go to too many things. But it was really fun because it was such a retrospective moment because, you know, hearing her experience, you know, Grammys, parties, etc. That, you know, I didn't go that year that we were writing. I was kind of watching from the outside, but it made me nostalgic about all the experiences that I've had and all the crazy stories that I feel like I could tell from my Grammy days and such the times that I've been and the times that I've even watched from home. So it was this beautiful circle moment, but also writing with her was a big full circle moment after listening to her music. And
when was this taking place?
I'm trying to remember exactly the year. This would have been 2024, I believe.
2 years.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it was, man, talk about a song that like I wasn't there yet. Human Again was something I was craving, and I've experienced parts of that, but you know, in any line of work, when you love what you do, the risk that you run is doing too much of it and burning yourself out a little bit. And being aware of that before it happens takes practice.
It's a superpower.
I think you just owe it to yourself to learn that part of yourself quick. If you care about what you do and you love what you do and you do it all the time, I think you have to be careful about that, right? Mm-hmm. So I have learned that I need to be careful about that. So it was more something I was craving, less something I actually knew how to accomplish or be, or, you know, and there were parts of me that had found room to breathe, and that realization, that whole pre-chorus was something I almost took out of I remember having a conversation with Alex, my buddy that I design the shows with, and you know, he co-produces with me, and I was like, man, I don't know if this pre kind of even needs to be in the song. It feels, you know, it feels too singer-songwriter conversational. It doesn't feel as structured as I want it to feel, or as hooky as I want it to feel. And he was like, yeah, but like
that's
there's some stuff in there that's kind of important, and I'm glad he talked me out of getting rid of it. And my girlfriend as well. It was like, I kind of feel like there's a couple of lyrics in here that really matter. And because she's one of the first people I played that song for. It was before we were dating. But it was just so beautiful to see that song kind of come to life. And we didn't change that much about it. We kept it as acoustic as possible, but the energy of it feels very, sunshiny, deep breath.
I mean, the whole album to some degree is that, right? It's this.
Glad to hear that.
it's optimistic and not in a forced way, not in a like everything's gravy, but like, this is a journey I've been through, and we'll come back to it. But so much of this, you've been vocal about writing something you don't even have yet. You're hoping to have that, and the forethought there is just so mature. Let's rewind. So title track, Evergreen.
Yep.
It's pretty unusual to have a title track, and that's not one of the singles that's out ahead of the album. So the first thing people are going to hear is you playing an oud, which is a pear-shaped, let me see if I get this right, pear-shaped, double-stringed, fretless instrument.
You did your research, man, for sure, yeah. I guess I say that because I didn't know what it was until I saw it on TikTok for the first time.
You think I knew this,
and then
Hunter?
No one knows. It's such a beautiful instrument, and there's so many different people who play it in such a unique way, and it's so outside of the world that I grew up studying fretted instruments. The oud is the opposite of all the things that I learned, so it was a fun challenge. But I was looking for something for that riff that wasn't something I'd heard before.
It's generally the first thing you hear on the album.
That's why I wanted it to be so kind of, what is that? I wanted it to transport you to a place you hadn't been to yet.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what dreams are all about. The unknown is the best thing you can spend time in and just love and embrace and be.
So why hold that track? Why hold that track? Why is no one hearing that until the release?
It was both unintentional in that we talked about that being it was going to be the last single of last year for a second. It was going to be the first single of everything for a second. I don't know. It kind of took a lot of different courses on its own. And what I love is that it is unheard until the album comes out. The first thing people will hear when they go to hopefully experience the album front to back, because it is designed to be that experience that way. At least once. Just promise you'll do it once. I love that it starts with something you haven't heard, and I love that the metaphor there is just what what I was just saying, the unknown. You're gonna be introduced to something there are familiar pieces to it, but in order to properly experience it, you have to start with unknown. And I think that's that's a practice that I'm very present in working with, is the unknown of everything. Not I'm scared of what's about to happen, but man, if anything can happen, what can I dream up?
I learned that later in life than I'm proud to admit, but
same.
You can be so fearful of but this could happen.
Right.
But if you can just click a little bit to the right and go, but this could happen.
Yeah. The practice with both my coach and my therapist, two different sort of styles of conversation, but was basically okay, if you're going to spend time, or I guess the practice that I designed was or found was, if you're going to spend any time in the negative what if, then set aside equal that amount of time and dream up what if on the other side.
Yeah.
Of what if it all works out? What if everything's great? What if everything I need and want comes to fruition, and I'm prepared to meet that moment too?
What If is a great title for a track. Just, you can hang on to that.
I've actually written several songs called What If. Yeah. There's another song later for that I just recently wrote that doesn't say that exactly, but it's kind of in the theme of,
I'm going to nerd out for a second. So if you're hearing this and you're I don't know anything about airplanes, I promise we're going to bring this back to a metaphor. You and I have a very similar journey when did you first go up for a discovery flight? So for those that don't know, you're working to obtain your pilot's license, which some people say is, if you're doing it as a career, there's a 9-month structure. You get your PPL, your private license, and you get your instruments. But when it is a passion and a hobby outside of a world like music, and for me in entertainment, it's hard to keep up with that.
It's a hobby that requires discipline.
And money.
And forethought.
Yeah.
And financial
and money.
forethought.
Yeah. When was your first discovery flight?
2012.
Okay.
I think. I was on the road. I just started the Carrie Underwood tour. It was a birthday gift from my managers. They gave it to me. We did the Bridgestone Arena for my birthday. We were also celebrating my first number one with Wanted. And
I've heard of it.
And thank you. It's a new song. And they gave me an introductory flight. They got this custom pair of little wings, like the airplane wings that you hand out. We now have, we made merch wings because
Oh my God.
I'm obsessed with them.
I'm gonna need a pair of those. I'll give you the address later.
we gotta make sure you get some.
Yeah.
And so it was in Salt Lake City. My CFI / now really good friend Chad, who every time I'm in and around Salt Lake City, he tells me before I even know that I'm coming to town, and he puts aside a day or two, and most recently a whole week for us to train and get some time in. So yeah.
Quick side note: if you've ever wanted to learn to fly, do it. It's called the Discovery Flight, and you're not thrown to the wolves. Yep. But CFI, certified flight instructor, the best piece of advice is become friends with one, because then it's a lot easier. I recently made a new friend with a CFI. What kind of plane are you flying?
Man, we have a few different things. The first thing I got to fly in was the Saratoga.
Okay. Wow.
Which was
not your typical first.
Not the average entry flight. I spent a lot of time in like the Piper or the Czech
the Cherokees or
we flew. Yeah, we did flew an Archer. I flew an Archer this past summer for a while. Did some stuff in a have done the Skyhawk. Have done the Skycatcher, I believe it is, the Cessna, the light sport that they made.
The 152.
I was really obsessed with the light sport category for a while, and still kind of am, because I love the fact that they created something that's a little bit lower barrier of entry.
Yeah.
And then it's on you to maintain the diligence and the consistency.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I knew I would be dangerous if I didn't have that in my life plan before I start really pursuing this, because it's not something you can do every now and then. You have to stay proficient.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just trying to make sure anyone hearing this isn't like, because we could talk about this for an hour and a half. But yeah, it's not so much that people will ask, it's not that hard to fly an airplane. It's proficiency to know what to do if something goes wrong or any of these situations. And it should bring relief to someone hearing this, that pilots are required to stay current on that kind of stuff. So it's really easy if someone like Hunter or myself, you do a couple flights, you feel good, and then life gets in the way. It's like it doesn't go out the window, but you got to get back into it.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite things about flight training is you do your what if scenarios, right? But you're so comfortable with your what if scenarios. You're comfortable knowing that, okay, what if the worst thing happens? Well, I'm very well trained in the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable handling the worst thing that can happen. And so it doesn't scare me anymore. Like, I'm prepared. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor for life.
It really is.
In a lot of ways. Yeah.
You recently put out a video where you described what a logbook is, and the Too Long Don't Read is every pilot ever, since the history of flight, has to log every time they go up in the air, right? Yeah. Their takeoffs, their landings, their destinations, and not only for official reasons, but also it just serves as a journal. If you look back at the logbook of your career, are there, and I know it's a long one, are there certain things that would surprise people, or like the prized flight as a metaphor? Like, that's a moment that, like, maybe that wasn't the Grammys, or maybe that wasn't, opening for Taylor or Carrie or whoever it may be, something that just sticks out to you. It's like, oh, that's the flight I like to go back and think about.
Oh, dude, so many. Number one, the Guinness World Record.
Which you got dethroned. I'm sorry. I don't know if you knew this. Yeah, 2 years ago, a UK artist, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, because you did 10 concerts in 24 hours to bring awareness for ending world hunger, specifically for children. Super admirable. 2 years ago.
Did he or she actually get the Guinness record, though?
He did. He did 15 in 24 hours. Huh. And I didn't want to make this a sore spot, but I think you might have to get after it again.
Well, good for... Who was it?
I have the note. I mean, all I know is that Hunter Hayes did it, obviously.
We held on to it for a solid
Frank
10 years.
Turner did it between May 4th and May 5th of 2024.
Well, so we still held it for 10 years.
Oh, and it's an impressive record. I am not... Yeah, I mean,
it's not easy to do either. So honestly,
just logistically,
hats off. Yeah.
So I mean, did you have obviously you have a Guinness World Record plaque?
Yeah,
that's gotta be cool.
Yeah.
That
was a big one for me, because I think that goes to, again, you only get a Guinness World Record if no one in the world has done it
by name,
and so that was seemingly impossible at the time. And we didn't just break it; we went further.
Shattered it.
10 shows, right? So, it's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of moving parts, and we didn't compromise on anything. So I'm not only proud of like the teamwork and the effort of it all, but I'm also proud of myself as a human and the like seemingly impossibility of doing that, and how difficult that is to accomplish. But like also that's a great example of, I could have said, what if it's really hard? And I also went with, yeah, but what if it's really fun and I'm in the best position of my life to do this? And
for an amazing cause, by the way.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. We also, we partnered with them for the tour, and we did a lot of fun stuff around that time. Even though that was its own tour in a day. So that's one. I think also like my time with Stevie Wonder was really big for me, but also like that's a whole episode worth of conversation.
I can only imagine.
And then I'd say like working with Elton too. Elton's the way that he continues to sort of check in, and just like every time I do anything, there's this beautiful moment where I just randomly get this unknown caller number and I know that it's Elton. So not that I answer every unknown caller.
I'm trying to think of like the coolest person I have in my phone, but I'm embarrassed to even look.
I don't even have him in my phone because he changes everything every,
You're like, if
months.
It's the unknown, it may be Elton John.
Probably, yeah. So,
wow.
So I think the relationship with an icon like that, and someone who's willing to give you the time and give you their perspective and teach you something that you can't afford to learn, I mean, that's a big one for me. In my logbook, I would put that in as like, that was one of the, my time talking to him, or the times where I've called him for advice, I would put that in as some pretty high level time with a certified flight instructor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some other people that have kind of become mentors, so far outside of the world of where I would have expected mentors to show up. They've shown up in the most beautiful ways. So those are big things for me. Award show performances, or debuting Invisible on the Grammys, was a big deal, because that's also a song that kind of went against all odds. That wasn't really a radio friendly song. That was, up tempo and happy and light and whatever. It's a very personal song.
Sure.
And having that have the story that it has, and the fact that it still has a life in, thanks to people in places I've never even been to, I put that as a pretty big sort of, I don't know, that's a really big, I guess I would file that under a certification.
Yeah.
That's something
Summa cum laude, when you graduate and you get the thing that you can wear.
That feels really, I think it also just kind of changed the course of my career, because it helped me understand that there's so much more room to make things that don't exist, that you haven't seen people make. That's a big one.
I love that. It's a known fact, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing it at this point, that you're kind of savant when it comes to, you can pick up an instrument and you can find your way around it, right? I
appreciate you saying it like that.
It's over 30 something instruments, probably far more than the internet knows. The oud we talked about was this instrument that you put on this album. Is there ever been an instrument that you're like, I tried,
There's so many, dude. Oh, I just believe anybody can be, anybody can do it if they just spend the amount of time that I've spent with all this stuff, right? But the string violins, or anything like violins, are kind of my biggest challenge, and I think it's just because I haven't been patient enough with those instruments.
Yeah.
But I really do want to be able to write and compose my own string sections for songs.
I'm the biggest fan. Anytime there's any kind of a horn section or a string section, I'm such a sucker.
Dude, I love that like horn sections are coming back too. Like all the Olivia Dean music with the beautiful horn section arrangements. Like, I love how timeless it feels to hear horns on pop music again. And also, like, strings have always been kind of a very romantic thing that can make any song feel timeless,
So much of this album is either you speaking to the future, or a mature version of Hunter speaking to older Hunter in some degree of, this is how things change or click. 2016, that seems to be the theme, right? Everyone's like, it's the new 2016. So 2016 Hunter, to the best of your ability, what track would he be the most, maybe nervous isn't the right word, but you got the butterflies. I can't believe I'm putting this out into the world off of Evergreen.
What song? 2016 Hunter, I think, would probably be, I think he'd be super stoked about Evergreen. I think Around the Sun would be the biggest accomplishment.
The final track.
Yeah. which it wasn't going to be the final track. But I think because it's something I wrote by myself, and in 2016, I wasn't doing a lot of that. I didn't have a lot of faith in me writing by myself. I also just to be brutally honest, I mean, I think at that time I was really navigating a lot of external opinions, voices, other people's energy that wasn't fucking mine in any way, shape, or form. And I would be astonished at the amount of freedom that song feels like it has and the positivity that it has. Because I also just gave that song enough time for it to just like show up. It wasn't my normal, I'm going to write something for, 2 hours. And because to me, it's like if it comes all at once, it's meant to be in the world. If it doesn't, then I kind of don't trust it. Mm-hmm. And that song took like 2 days. I went to my neurofeedback sessions and like that helped a lot. But there were moments where I almost like kind of let go of that song. And I love the optimism that it has. I also love that it deals with something that I don't know I knew how to deal with in a lot of ways. Especially if I look back to 2016, I wrote a song called Madness, and that would have been my version of Around the Sun. And Madness to me feels like, and it's beautiful that Madness starts Wild Blue, which was the first part of this whole thing, and then Sun currently finishes Evergreen Season 1. They bookend, and that was kind of a realization for Madness was how I started trying to grapple with a lot of things, and Sun is where I landed. They talk about the same thing that I won't share, but because I want it to be whatever it is to people, but dealing with the world and addressing the stuff in the world that I have a hard time sort of processing. This is my approach. Madness was the beginning of my approach. I think Sun is my approach now.
I have a lot in common with the sky. Some days are clear, but then some days are not so bright.
Yeah.
I love that you said, whatever that may mean to you, I don't think there's a person in living existence that can't relate to. Okay. Andy Grammer's one of my favorite artists for many, many, many years.
Same.
And his song, Keep Your Head Up, only rainbows after rain, sun will always rise again. That's immediately what I heard. And when, full honesty, I'm the worst kind of audience for someone like you because I don't often listen to projects start to finish. It's just, I grew up in a DJ company. My parents, so it was always about the singles. It was always about what song do I register with? But when a project gets me in that first song or two, it's like, okay. And I can't commend you enough that, I'm going to camera say, you better listen to this start to finish at least once. Because it especially when you end it, it's interesting to say you almost didn't end with Around the Sun because that just seems like the perfect capstone. It really does.
It sort of felt like an opening for a while.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. But I don't know that it would hit as heavy if you didn't have the journey with the songs part of that. That's
a fair point. I really appreciate your perspective on that because I definitely spend way too much time overthinking a lot of these things. But the more I listened to it, it had to be either the beginning or the end. Mm-hmm. And the way that it ended, I call it the Letters from an Astronaut because like it kind of trails off with this like bit crushed version of the vocals, and it feels like this radio transmission from far away. Mm-hmm. Not intentionally, but kind of when I hear back, it kind of reminds me of the like Music of the Spheres kind of emotion that we're not alone, and that you're on a planet, you're spinning around the sun, but there's also the universe to consider. There's so many things unknown that remind you that you're not alone. So it's beautiful that it ended up as the last song. I don't know that, that wasn't the design the whole time. So
I love that you brought up the bit crushed callback at the end, dude, because something I've talked to a lot of artists about is kind of the lost art of songs fading out, right?
Yeah, the good old fade out.
Initially, and whether there's, this is BS or not, some of the artists I've talked to, it's the idea that the song never really ends. The story never really ends, right? So it will fade gradually because then that story just continues for whoever's listening to it. And that's kind of the feeling I got when I heard that bit crushed recall.
Love.
Which is like, okay, we can come back to this.
Love. It also beautifully kind of like intros into some other songs
that
we'll talk about in the future.
Maybe in the works.
But it also may just continue to live as the last song on every version of Evergreen, season 2, season 3, whatever. Because it definitely feels like a beautiful kind of conclusion to come to.
You've talked a lot about your reverb addiction.
I'm so grateful that I get to talk about it now.
Which, if you didn't know, is essentially eBay for instruments.
Oh, it's so much better.
It's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Reverb. And for me, I am not blessed with the musical talent, but I am a huge tech nerd, right? So like ZZ Sounds and like getting, messing with different plugins and different DAWs and whatnot. Those two sites are always very dangerous of, where do you put all this stuff?
Actually, I'm very proud of the fact that I sell like a batch of things every year.
Awesome. So you take your time with it and then
if like
give it more life.
For instance, right before I came here, I got a text from my buddy who helps me, find new homes for things.
He's a dealer.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
We sold a pair of speakers that I made most of Wild Blue on, but I hadn't used them in a while. They don't really serve. They're too big and loud for any space that I've been in. And I found myself cranking them all the time. So I was like, this is probably not a healthy habit to have.
Mm-hmm.
I love like going through and looking at something and saying, if I haven't worked with this actively and there's different, phases, right? Like, but yeah, I try to offload things, seasonally or at least once a year. There's a batch of things that go away, and it's like if I haven't looked at it in 2 years, then I'm like, I don't want to look at it right now.
That's growth. Because that's harder than you would.
It's a small batch.
Anyone who's ever collected anything, right? It's hard to. I like to look at it as you're giving it more life, and it goes on to someone else who will appreciate
100%.
it.
Yeah.
This was not a part of my preparation for this at all, but right when we sat down, you very kindly complimented my watch.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. And I can't take credit for it. It's my wonderful girlfriend that it sounds like you have a very similar support system, right?
Amazing support system.
But let's move on to the new addiction. So you are looking at watches too.
Oh, I'm always looking at watches.
How many watches do you own, Hunter? Ballpark it.
It depends on the classification.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'd say like, I have a watch box that has
like self-winding and
but there's 12 in there right now.
Will you rotate those as well?
I'm considering it. We're going to New York for press, and there's a couple that I haven't. A great example. There's a couple I haven't worn in a couple of years, and I'm like, or like there's one that was a gift that like carries some energy, and I'm like, it's probably time to find something that carries some new energy.
Yeah.
I want to pick the energy that I'm taking forward.
I love
with me,
that.
Yeah. So I might be trading some things out here soon. They have to have a story. You can't. To me, it's like. It has to mean something. Like this comes from a year where I chose to work very hard and just say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. And so this reminds me of just like, how fun it is how many things come through when you just open up. That's what this watch says to me. It's like if I open up to experiences where I normally would probably what if my way into the negative, this is what happens when I what if my way into the positive.
That's what took me so long, I think, to get into watches. Because, it's very easy to hear it and be like, okay, buy a Rolex if you're rich or you want to be flashy or whatever. And that never appealed to me, right? It was never the label or the brand in that capacity. But when you start to realize, and this goes for anything, any kind of apparel or instrument or whatever, that if it marks a time, a place, a story, then suddenly it doesn't matter if it costs $2 or, however much we may not disclose that watches sometimes cost. Timepieces, excuse me.
I sat down with an artist. I won't name any names because I don't know that this is any story, but I saw something. I saw a timepiece, and I thought it was like a Millet, Richard Millet. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a Tourbillon, which I also don't know if I'm saying it right, but like we know that's a 6-figure price tag.
Yeah.
So I asked about it, and they said, "You want to know something? This is a $50 watch my partner got for me, and it's my favorite thing because my partner got it for me.
Yeah.
And I wear it every day." And I was astonished because I was like, that is not something I would expect. Anyway, it was a beautiful reminder that, it is the value that you place on it is kind of all that matters.
That was it for me. The first watch I ever, this is like a year ago, it's not even that long ago. I rocked an Apple Watch forever, which I still do when I'm doing production stuff. Yeah, it's fine, but it could be very distracting. I've learned that. But the first watch I ever saw was it's a jump hour watch, right? So it's got this little, instead of having hands, it just jumps between digits of the hour. And I saw one that a buddy posted, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go find that. And then I got sucked into, without knowing anything, the world of vintage watches. And I'm like, oh, vintage is more my price bracket, depending.
There's so many cool things that you can find.
You were just showing me your
world.
Your app, Chrono
sure,
24.
Yes, Chrono 24.
Man, dude, I could talk to you forever. Let me just go through some of these songs real fast, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the grace that not only deserves, but I hope you know this is how this impacted me, right? So Fragile.
I appreciate that. Fragile.
Concrete skyscraper, only lined with glass. Stand tall, act strong. Hide your shattered past.
I tried to rewrite all of that because I didn't think it made any sense. Like, to the very ending of recording that song, I was asking everybody, I was like, does this make sense? Is this dumb? Does it make sense to me, but it's just because it's like all metaphoric and whatever. And I was like, is this too...
No, I mean, I heard that and it's like, okay, yeah, anyone that's been in any kind of position of, not power's not the right word, but you've built yourself up and
responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strength or perceived strength, but then it's like, is it strong to its core, or is it made out of glass?
Yeah.
Lined
with glass. Fragile, susceptible to storms in particular. Yes. I loved all the little metaphors in that line. I really appreciate you calling it out, because I definitely wanted to rewrite that. I think that's part of why I held the song for so long, because I was like, this first verse doesn't make any sense.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you included it.
Thank God.
Yeah, you have my seal of approval. You can, with movies, they put little journalists under it. Yeah. Eric Zachary loves this. Every piece. I love that it starts with drums. So much of your stuff starts with strings.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I'm a very, very amateur drummer, but if I had to be like, hey, we're going to go jam, that's the one thing I can be like, okay, I can mess around. And it's not a difficult drum beat, but it's very intentional.
Oh, it's a pocket. It's a really specific pocket. Yeah.
And it has certain hits on the tom that you're like, this is made to make the audience, we're so conditioned to like an EDM track, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like build, drop. And it's like, the specific moments and beats it's virtually just saying, take a breath, stop. Okay.
Huh. Wow. Yeah. I mean, when we wrote it, because I got to write it with Sam Ellis and John Mark Nelson, and they are two of
Sam's. What little I know is just...
Sam's a monster.
Yeah.
And we've worked together for years in so many different capacities. He was on the road with me for a while. That's how we met writing songs, and then he's produced stuff with me, and I love producing stuff with him. And then John Mark Nelson is also an artist, singer-songwriter. He produces projects that I'm a big fan of. Didn't know that until like after working with him. And like every song we write is one of my favorites. And I loved that song so much that that was one of those, like, I went home and worked on the demo immediately, and by 2 a.m. I had a version of it that is very close to the version that you hear.
Yeah.
It had that drum loop that I found, and that just guided me, and the whole thing was like this, like, I was gonna say slinky. I don't know if that's a word that a lot of people use, but like,
no, but I get what you're saying.
Guitar world, we use like we describe it as like slinky just because it's very like flexible and it would fall down the stairs elegantly. You know what I mean? But it's just like, it felt like a guitar song. I really wanted one of those because I feel like I've been missing that part of my story. Being the guitar player on a track was really kind of intentional for that song. Yeah.
Too Late, track 7. There's two lyrics from your entire piece, and I'll get to the second one in a moment. But if I walked away from nothing more from Evergreen than just the lyric, I made peace with my patience. I mean, we've already kind of expounded on what that could mean, but to hear that put into words, I don't know that anyone ever fully accomplishes that.
No.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I know people who have, and I admire them.
Well, then they're the Yodas in our lives.
They really are.
Yeah, we need to talk to them more. But that one, obviously, is just, it hits me. And then I don't know how hard it was for you to put this down, but the one you love, it's a letter to yourself. It's acknowledging that, at least this is my personal, idea of it, but you're not acknowledging past that you've had and people. And it could be in stories or loved ones, but, for me specifically, made me think of a few relationships. And, I'm still grateful and grieving, lying awake when I close my eyes. And then when you get to the chorus, it goes, you don't get to choose how long you have with the ones you love.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of be in it.
Yeah, and I very purposefully put it right after Too Late, because Too Late comes along and says, it's never too late, and then you, the ones you love, says, oh, but sometimes it is.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to be at peace with that.
Yeah. I often wonder if that song is going to make sense to people, just because I narrow the way that I talk about it. Like, I'm talking to several people. Yeah, that was definitely one of those. Like, I walked into a co-write with another idea that I was really excited to write about, and the more we talked, the more, JC was like, I kind of feel like we need to write that other thing first.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And it was hard to write. It still makes me so emotional, just because I think there's a lot of grieving that was put off. And then when something unexpected happens, that you got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So that still is a lesson that I think I'm actively learning. Yeah.
I admittedly didn't put Too Late and that together until now, at least that cohesively. And not that we need to dive into this at all, but, I'll share, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at a very young age. And that immediately just makes me think, like, wow, at some point, you don't get to rewrite any of that.
Yeah.
Man. I want to go back and listen to the whole piece now. Okay. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. We'll have to do this again, but Evergreen, by the time you're hearing this or watching this, is out. A little fun backstory. Hunter canceled on me, so I had to get down. No, I'm kidding. I had to cancel on Hunter. We were supposed to talk in a few weeks when you were in Chicago, and some things got in the way, namely my buddy's bachelor party. I'm still mad at him about it. But I said, you know what, I don't want to pass up the opportunity. It actually ended up being better, because I really do prefer to talk before the project comes out.
Man, I'm honestly super grateful, and talk about what if it works out. I appreciate you taking the time, and especially being here.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to talk about it before the project is released too, because if we were to talk on a show day too, I'd probably be really stressed.
Sure. Yeah.
Trying to get back to the venue very quickly.
I don't want to do that to you, and when we do inevitably talk again, it'll be nice to see the A-B of it, right? The before and the after.
Yeah.
Evergreen, 10 songs. It is out next week, or as you're hearing this, 5 are currently out. I think it's not whether it was subconscious or not, the songs that were not released yet are the ones that hit the hardest with me. So I really think if you think what all this is going to sound like, you got to hear it start to finish. Just one fun question, as a collector of instruments and talents, is there ever an instrument you bring with you on the road that you really has no place? Like you're never going to actually play it, or you always try to think you're going to put it into a show, but it just, doesn't work out?
Two things come to mind. One, I carry around this little acoustic guitar that I found in LA a couple of years ago. I just love this thing. It's one of those, like, the shop didn't know anything about it. They were like, it was parts probably built in somebody's garage. Like, it's a one-off. There's no other versions of it. And I have asked Martin, I have asked everyone that I know to build a version of this guitar, because I think that if we could manufacture a version of this guitar, it's just a beautiful instrument, and it's small, but it just sings. It's loud. It's very sensitive though. It never comes on stage. It will probably never come on stage, because it's safer in the back of the bus and like inside in the bus.
How do you refer to it?
I don't know that it
Does
has
it have a name
even yet. No, it would be like an Archer.
Okay.
Like a Piper Archer.
I love that you're bringing this back. Oh, we'll do a whole nother podcast on flying.
I think it would be more like a Cub.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because it's so small and it's so versatile. But that is one thing. But then on the other side, something I take with me literally everywhere I go is the Teenage Engineering OP1. I love everything that Teenage Engineering makes. I own one of everything that they have ever made. Because every time they make something and I think I don't need it, I get it, and then I realize that it serves 5 different purposes that they can't even advertise, right? Because they're so unique in everything that they make. But the OP1, I mean, loads of people, like, I'm not pretending like I'm introducing this to anybody, but for me it was a life-changing songwriting tool that I learned. I've wanted to use it on stage because it can do so many things. I did use it on the solo tour. In Nerd World, we could go in and talk about that later, but I've always wanted to use it in the live show, and it's just such a very small instrument that we haven't quite figured out how to do that, but I think there will be a version of us using it on this tour. But I say that before
we'll see
the last 4 shows, and we haven't done it yet, so we'll see. Yeah.
Evergreen is out now by the time you're hearing this. Evergreen Tour is probably occurring or about to occur by the time you hear this.
It's happening.
And it's
right now.
It's an exciting time again.
Yeah, come hang out with us on tour.
I will find another date. I'll fly to a date. Yeah, I definitely want to see the show.
Would love to have you.
And I'm not going to let my buddy's bachelor party get in the way of that.
Or bring the bachelor party to the show.
I don't know that I want to do that to you. I don't.
The latter part of the show is very bachelor party friendly.
Okay. All right. You don't know my friends. Hunter Hayes, dude, it's been absolutely a pleasure. Oh, one more fun fact. Your half birthday is almost to the day of when this album's coming out. And I only know that because your birthday is 9/9.
Yeah.
91.
Yeah.
And my birthday is 9/11/91. So you are 2 days my senior.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, just a stupid little fun fact, but I'm like, I will never forget his birthday because of that.
Well, I'll share all the wisdom I learned in the first 2 days of my life.
I cannot wait. We'll talk about that sometime. Hunter Hayes, man, thank you so much for taking the time, and I can't wait to catch up with you for season 2.
Looking forward to it.